Call the City Council regular meeting to order for Monday, July 6, 2026 at 6:30 PM. Everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to item 3, a roll call. Administrator Pofus.
Yes, Councilmember Ball,
Present.
Councilmember Jensen,
Present.
Councilmember Roney,
Present.
Councilmember Scott,
Present.
Mayor Rogenkamp.
Present. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, open forum. The City Council invites residents to share new ideas or concerns related to city business not already on the agenda. However, individual questions and remarks are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No City Council action will be taken, although the council may refer issues to staff for follow-up for consideration at a future meeting. The mayor may use discretion if speakers are repeating views already expressed or ask for a spokesperson for groups of individuals with similar views. Speakers should state their name and home address at the podium before speaking. And I would just like to state before I open the open forum is that if you are here to address the TIF, I would ask you to hold your comments as I will be providing opportunity at the time on the agenda item for public to comment on it. So I've made the decision to open that a public comment period during that agenda item. So if you do have comments regarding the TIF, please hold them till then. All right? All right, so I will now open the open forum. Is there anybody here that wishes to address the council on any other open forum items? I will ask again, is there anybody here that wishes to address the council in open forum? I'll ask one more time, is there anybody here that wishes to address the council in open forum? Hearing none, I will now close the open forum. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, the consent agenda. Consent agenda tonight is 5A, approve city council meeting minutes from June 1st, 2026. 5B, approve claims totaling $247,517.86 for checks 141197 to 141271 and e-checks 4130 to 4133. 5C, approve offer of employment for Anthony Moberg for Planning and Zoning Administrator. 5D, approve conditional offer of employment to Rodney Coons for Police Officer. 5E, resolution number 31-26 requesting a variance from standard for state aid operation for Bushman Road Reconstruction Project. 5F, resolution number 32-26 establishing compensation for members of the Planning Commission. 5G, resolution number 33-26 accepting donation from Woodseth Engineering for butterfly release. 5H, resolution number 34-26 approved donations to police department. 5I, resolution number 35-26 approved park dedication fees for Vista Village development. 5J, resolution number 36-26 approved park dedication fees for Eagle View storage development. And 5K, reject bids for 2026 sewer metering improvement project. Having read the consent agenda, is there any changes from the council? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So move.
I have a motion from Councilmember Roney. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Ball. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? A motion carries. All right, moving on. Item 6, business items. 6A, tax assistant discussion. I'm going to start off by turning it over to Administrator Pofus.
Yes, thank you. At the City Council meeting on June 1st, 2026, the City Council had discussion to preliminarily review a tax assistance application received from White Birch Inc. for a 74-unit apartment complex. During that meeting, the council heard from the applicant regarding the proposed development, staff regarding various types of tax assistance, and had discussion about both the impact of the development and the tax assistance request. The council directed staff to follow up on several items related to the request, And throughout the month of June, I have sent the council additional information related to these items. Tonight, my intention is to briefly update the council and the people in this room on the findings as directed, and ultimately get direction on whether to proceed with the next steps or not. The first item was impacts to sewer. The city is expected to begin planning for a wastewater treatment plant expansion when the system reaches approximately 80 additional ERUs. With existing information, we are projected to hit this threshold by 2032, and planning for this expenditure would begin in 2030. If the proposed apartment complex proceeds, the timeline would likely accelerate. The $5 million expansion would primarily affect the timing of expenditures rather than the overall long-term impact. It is likely that there would be a lost investment earnings due to earlier expenditure, and the project would require funding if our projections are accurate. The timing of the expansion would ultimately depend on factors such as project schedule, occupancy, and actual usage. The next item was traffic on County Road 11. The council had several questions regarding to the impact to traffic on County Road 11 as a result of this development. After meeting with the county, it was determined that the current development proposal is consistent with the assumptions used in the traffic study completed in 2018, so a new study is not needed. The proposed development would trigger the existing developers agreement, which includes improvements to the south leg of Ranchette Drive. The development alone would not trigger a roundabout, but if additional commercial development occurs, we would likely need to evaluate at that time. In your packet, I provided an official response from the county. The next item was housing. In your packet, I provided the extensive housing study conducted by Crow Wing County in 2020. The council also asked me to reach out to cities that have worked with this builder on several projects. The communities that have worked with Alliance Building Corporation had positive feedback to share, and staff did not receive any information that was concerning in regards to the developer or its past performance. In addition, I provided some information related to income restrictions and the updated numbers for 2026. Tonight, the council should have a discussion and ultimately determine if they want to direct the applicant to proceed with a formal application for tax assistance. This would include a $10,000 deposit from the developer and future considerations at the City Council and Planning Commission meetings. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Administrator Polfus. Are there any questions from the council at this point about information that was provided? Okay, I don't hear any. I think it was, thank you. I do want to take the time to thank the staff for all the work they put into this. I know there was a lot of effort made to go get this information for the council so that they had the best information in front of them in front of the meeting tonight so that we were ready to discuss it and make a decision. So thank you for that. What I'm going to do now is I am going to allow public comment. This is how this is going to work. It's just going to be like open forum. So when you come forward, I'm going to ask you to state your name and your address. You're going to get 3 minutes, and I will keep watch of the time. What I do ask is that if you're here as a group, like several of you have come together, and I would ask that one person come up and represent that group so that we don't have all the people coming up and making comments. If somebody comes forward and has comments and they make them, pay attention to what they're saying, because if yours are exactly the same or very close, I would ask that you try to limit yours so that we don't have a lot of redundancy. Ultimately, we want to hear from the public, but at the same time, we need to be able to move forward in a timely fashion as well. So if you just keep those things in mind, I'd greatly appreciate it. What I'm going to do starting off this public comment period is I'm going to open it up. Administrator Polfus has a couple of things that she's going to add for the public record, and then I will start to take people from the audience to come up. So everybody will get their opportunity again, like I said, so we'll work through this. All right, Administrator Polfus?
Yes, thank you. We received an email from Jerry Schroden. It states, I'm writing on the subject of the TIF proposal for the apartment complex. I can support TIF financing only on several limited conditions. I can only support the short-term workforce housing financing. I cannot in any way see fit to allow for a long-term TIF. I support the financing only with the recapture clause to recover the interest cost to the taxpayers if the sewer plant project needs to be started sooner than the current plan anticipates. Additionally, as I put in your packet, we received a petition opposing the project with several signatures. It was added to this morning as I received a couple additional pages. So that is all I had.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Apophis. All right. So I will now allow the public to come up and provide comments. Realize at this time that we're going to allow you to make comments to us. Unless it's a pointed question, most likely I will not allow the council to answer back. Okay, so this is an opportunity for you to give input so that the council can then make a decision after we've heard everybody and we deliberate with that. So with that, it doesn't matter who goes first, you can step on up. So come on forward. State your name and your address, and again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Well, good evening. My name is Brad Cutler. I live at 7574 Chickasaw Circle. I'm at the very end of Chickasaw. The backyard runs up to Ranchette. As my house is to the open field, it's 140 yards. It's a good chip shot with a 9-iron. I strongly oppose this. My fear is that there's going to be tremendous noise pollution. There's going to be light pollution. This is going to be a tremendous and a huge burden on our infrastructure, our sewer and water, that's going to cause us to have additional financing to cover this. I want to address that letter that's in your packet from the county, and I would just caution you before you start sprinkling anointment oil on that letter, take matters into your own hands and do us a favor on a Friday afternoon, drive down County Road 11, and where we live on Chickasaw, you got to turn into Ouray. And turn into Ouray. There's not a bypass lane on that. And what you have when you're coming from Breezy Point is you get a lot of aggressive weekend drivers that whip around you on that solid line. Once they're around you, they realize there's an embankment there. There's a guardrail there, and they've got to cut back in. It happens to us all the time. And but the more important thing is, as you travel on County Road 11, it's a gradual sweeping curve. Where Ouray comes out at, we're at the inside apex of that curve. And when you turn to the east and you're heading towards Breezy Point, there's a vehicle that you don't see when you come out because of the trees. Typically that vehicle is a Ford F-350. They're pulling their fifth wheeler, they're pulling their 21-foot Lund all together, and they're going 80 miles an hour. You look up in your rearview mirror and they're this far behind you, road raging. And so before we all jump in and take that county Department of Engineering for fact, let's do our own research and look at this yourself. I would imagine that's probably the same department that was used and hired by the city of Baxter when 371 came through. And look at the nightmare that Baxter's in right now with that 371 expansion. That's a disaster how that all turned out. When Corey Garretts from Alliance Corporation spoke on June 1st, there was a lot of vague words. There was a lot of hum and hums, I don't know, and I guess we could have some strong wording. There's a lot of vagueness there as far as the no guarantees and the guaranteed income levels of who can be there. And I just think that we need to delve into that and get a lot deeper concept of that. And I'm just concerned that, say, for example, if Alliance Corporation maybe goes bankrupt or maybe they get bought and sold and someone doesn't honor these agreements that they have with the city, that all those agreements get thrown out the window. And this will morph into Section 8 housing. That's the root cause of this discussion and why we're up here. Now, I was responsible for getting a majority of the signature, not a majority, probably half. I knocked on 38 doors and 36 of the people said, "We support you." One person said, "I support you, I'm not going to put the signature." That person is here today representing, but they didn't want to put their name out in public. There was one individual out of the 38 doors that said, "I think this is a good idea." Those are substantial numbers of people that aren't in favor of this. So I'm just asking that you kind of walk a mile in our shoes. Now, I'm going to end this with a little tongue-in-cheek here, with a little sarcasm here, and I'll be done. Let's compromise and let's build this nightmare and let's put it on the 9th fairway of Deacon's Lodge. And there's no way that's going to happen because it'll have a negative impact on their property and it'll destroy their property values. And that's what's going to happen to us. And we're just asking that you please walk a mile in our shoes.
Thank you, sir. Next. Please state your name and your address.
Michael Buckner, Chickasaw Circle, Breezy Point. I have 2 points that I want to make. Referring back to the agenda item of the June 1 meeting, the zoning, or the planner, city planner, had a comment in there. Types of tax assistance. The city has several tools available for consideration. All options require that the project meet the quote, but for, quote, test, meaning the project would not proceed, would be delayed, or would be significantly altered without public assistance. I see nothing in the pre-application for tax assistance financing from White Birch that addresses that issue, whether there would be but for a development without public financing. I do not believe under any set of circumstances the taxpayers of Breezy Point should be on the hook for White Birch's development of these apartments. The issue of the location, the issue of the traffic, the issue of the sewer, I think could all be discussed down the line if the council approves the preliminary application and they move forward. I would point out, it seems to me that takes an awful lot of staff time again and an awful lot of expense involved, and I'm just not convinced that it's worth the time and effort to do that. And my final point, I don't want to sound snarky, but my final point is 200 yards south of us here, there's a $15 or $20 million project being financed by White Birch. Right up the road from that is another new project, the marijuana dispensary, cannabis dispensary. Down the road from that is another White Birch development, the storage buildings next to Pine River State Bank. White Birch has got their finger in a lot of pies, which is fine. That's what private companies do. But I don't think it's responsible in any way, shape, or form for a TIF-financed project when obviously they've got plenty of money to do whatever they want. Remember, White Birch is a part of Breezy Point. Breezy Point is not a part of White Birch. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next. Is there anybody else that wants to come forward? I will ask again. Is there anybody else that wishes to come forward to address the council? I'm going to ask one final time. Is there anybody else that wishes to come forward to address the council at this point? Hearing none. Oh. Okay. Come forward, state your name and your address, please.
Deb Buckner, and I'm on Chickasaw.
Just a little closer so we can hear you in the mic.
I'll get taller, okay?
Or you can pull that down.
Okay.
There you go, Deb.
So Deb Buckner, and I reside on Chickasaw Circle in Breezy Point. And I guess I just have two issues as well, or questions, maybe even for the city council. One is, I've read the strategic plan, and I've taken a look at all the available agenda packet information. And before there's any approval of the TIF piece of this, I would just ask you to search your souls about how this does fit into the strategic plan. And the reason I ask that is because when I look at the overall vision for the community, you know, it's about safety, it's about respecting our natural beauty, our trees, things like that. And I would share that I came to a city council meeting when the townhomes were going to be built at the end of the cul-de-sac, and that was a White Birch project. And I'm not meaning to throw darts at White Birch, but I was here that night and I heard the developer say, we're going to maintain the beauty of that area. We don't want to destroy all the trees, and I think the city council members would remember that being said by the developer. And what happens? They came in and they clear cut every stinking tree down there. And they're continuing to remove more as they develop that area. I think one of the most important things we have as human beings is our integrity and having trust-based relationships with people. And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about where you sit as city council members in that process and accountability. And then I also ask you at the same time to think about what it is you really do want for Breezy Point in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, one more time. Anybody else that wishes to provide comment to the city council on this topic? Hearing none, I will now consider the comment period closed. Thank you for your input. So basically, we are at the point, council, where there needs to be a decision. So I'll start this off. Comments from the council? Thoughts?
So probably more of a process question. With the information that's been gathered so far, given the conversations that the council had last month, are we really talking about the action tonight, simply moving the project to an application stage?
So what you would be doing tonight is you'd be directing me to proceed with a formal application, tax assistance application. So the developer would fill out, I think it's 2 or 3 pages, a more formal application. It'll have a dollar amount for their request. And then at that point, you guys would review it likely in August. And then from there, the TIF process starts. We negotiate the terms of the TIF. And kind of in tandem with that, they would also need to go through the Planning Commission land use process. So that would involve, I believe, a CUP for the project. So tonight, your action starts the ball rolling, but at any point, it gets a little difficult to halt it after the ball starts rolling. But at any point, you could say, nope, we don't want to do it. There'll be multiple resolutions, public hearings that'll need to be had, depending on which type of TIF you move forward with. But it does start the ball.
In somewhat of a dual path, the way it sounds, right? I mean, there's going to be a land use application, I'm gathering, that's going to be reviewed
Yep,
against ordinance requirements, planning commission
correct.
involvement. At the same time, the council's gathering more information, working through, as mentioned, you know, the but-for analysis and every piece of the potential tax increment finance.
Yeah, I guess the nuts and bolts tonight is, does the city council want to provide tax assistance for this project? That's kind of starts the development on its course. But tonight, we're really talking about the tax assistance. Should you guys not want to, you know, provide tax assistance, they could still move down the route and go through the planning commission process without tax assistance.
Any other comments or thoughts from the council?
I received feedback from quite a few residents. Only 1 or 2 positive. Most did not want the tax increment financing, the housing version due to the subsidy, rent subsidy. One of the things I don't like and would not vote to move it forward is the city in the enterprise fund losing $320,000 in interest money. Also, as far as infrastructure, I don't agree with Crow Wing County's assessment. Sitting on the county, the Eagle View County Road 11 traffic study team, that, the original study was done in 2017. A lot has changed. During COVID is when the number of parents dropping off their kids and picking them up just, it increased dramatically. There is an interim solution that they're gonna proceed with in 2027 with some turn lanes, and moving the stop sign out and getting the sight lines, better, but, those two things I think are still, you know, number one, like I said, the losing out on $320,000 is not gonna happen. It can't. We can't afford it as a city. The only way we have to get our revenue is through the levy, and we can't forego that. Now, that being said, that is funded, the sewer enterprise fund is funded through the businesses and homes that, you know, are connected to sewer. The taxpayers, Chickasaw Circle, you're on, you know, septic systems, you're not paying for that. Other than that, at this point, there's too many unanswered questions. I do not like the process that the council does not know what percentage they're asking for and how many years. I think that's flawed process, but that's the way it works. So at this point, I do not support moving it forward.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Other comments?
Well, I guess I'll go. In June, I sort of mentioned that I didn't think I was in support of like a development of this size in Breezy Point. I think that's still my opinion. I think our concerns about the sewer and the traffic are still there. $320,000 is a lot of money. And then losing that and requiring some financing then support to do the expansion down the road. Sort of that maybe in and of itself to me is justification for not supporting a TIF at this time, because we would already be foregoing a lot of money just through having to accelerate the expansion of the sewer. I agree with Councilman Jensen. With respect to County Road 11, with right by the North Star, I mean, that intersection is already bad. The county has said it's bad. The fact that they didn't put a roundabout, that they're not going to put a roundabout in the school, around the school, like right now, to me is alarming. So I'm not surprised that they wouldn't say there would need to be one by the development, but I don't agree with that either. I think there probably should be one put in at the school right now, so, yeah, I think mostly, the issue for me is losing the money with the sewer, having to accelerate, that, and the cost of that alone just sort of puts, I mean, we would already be sort of financing it that way, if it moved forward, so. I would not be in support of the TIF at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Paul. Councilmember Roney, any comments?
I don't have much more to add. I think most of those bullet points have been all hit. I would agree, you know, the process is kind of broken about not knowing that funding, right? I mean, if they're asking for $100,000 for tax assistance, it is a difference from $1 million, right? So it is kind of, we don't know what that dollar amount is. And the way I see it too is we're really here to talk about the TIF. As the without the TIF, this project can still move forward. It's a conditional use permit, meaning it's permitted with conditions, and so the project can move forward without the TIF portion of it. So really not knowing that kind of leaves that empty void of the self-assurance, but I think all the points that have been stated so far are spot on.
Thank you. Well, I thank the council for the comments. I think when I think about it, one of the things that jumps out at me is the strategic plan. We came together at the beginning of the year and we talked about what we felt we needed to be looking at moving forward. And we came up with 5 different things that we have. And I just spoke about them at the State of the City address about what those are and what we felt was important. And I think when we look at those and how those apply to what we're looking at here, you know, those are the things that I think I want to be able to focus on as we work as a council and staff to move the city forward. I think along with that, I also look at the sewer piece. And for me, that's a big thing. And honestly, I don't think we're ready. I don't think as a city we're ready to take on that infrastructure. If we go down the road of allowing the TIF, and yeah, there's no guarantee that whether we approve the TIF or not, they could still move forward with the project and that could still push us forward. And I understand that, but at the same time, if we agree, then we're saying yes, that we are going to take that on and we are going to move it forward and it's gonna accelerate the process, which I don't think at this point we're ready to do. The 320,000, because I know how much money a levy point is. And when I start thinking about levy increases and we look at taxes for the taxpayers in this city, 320,000, that's a chunk. People don't realize that a levy point is, it's not as big as you think it is. We have to think about that as well. So I think those are some of the things that I am in total agreement about Crow Wing County with their roads. They talked about the fact that when that study was done, that the idea that a roundabout would need to be put in there eventually, and yet if we're gonna put a new project like that in, they still think we don't need one. I agree with the fact that the way they did with Eagle View was another way of circumventing the idea that they need to take responsibility for the road. But that's another topic for another time and another subject. That doesn't have a lot to do with this, but it does have some impact. So with that said, I think I'll go back to what I've always stood on, and that's this. When I look at the city of Breezy Point, I look at it and I go, what do we do that's in the best interest of the majority of the citizens of this city? It's what I ran on. It's what I still believe in. And so I always think about that when I'm thinking about decisions. And so I start looking at the sewer project. I start looking at other things and how is that going to impact our citizens as a whole in this city, not to speak of the project itself. So I guess I'm at that point where I think that, I think if they want to move forward, they can. But I don't know how I can get on board supporting it right now at this point, just based on where we're at as a community. So that's kind of my comments. That's where I'm at. And I think at the end of the day, with the comments that we've heard, I think we're kind of getting an idea where we're landing with this. So with that being said, I think all of us have had an opportunity to comment. At the end of the day, we need to take action. That's what this council does after they've heard the facts and they've had points of discussion and they've thought about things and they've heard comment from the public as they did tonight. So with that being said, council, what's your pleasure?
Well, am I gonna be able to add some comments and thoughts into
Yep.
the discussion?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I can get on board with a lot of what other council members have brought up. However, for those that have been watching council meetings, you probably clearly know that I'm a bit of a dissenting voice in this group. And while in part I agree with the loss of investment income in the sewer fund, since being on the council, I can tell you that there's been decisions made where a heck of a lot more money has been at stake. So we talk about 300,000 loss of investment income. Consider paying hundreds of thousands of dollars more on bonding for equipment that arguably the city already had in a capital equipment fund to be able to cover. My point in all this, there's been decisions in a path that has been taken before that has costed all of us as taxpayers a heck of a lot more money than what it should have been. Outside of that, I feel like we're here tonight to make a decision on something that hasn't even been proposed. And I guess I'm the kind of person where I like to gather all the information that we need and really evaluate things before we come to a decision. To one of the points again that was brought up, we got to look at the but-for. We got to look at the financial on this project and the costs that can be covered by TIF. How many years of TIF makes sense? To me, there's far more many questions where additional information needs to be gathered before I can sit here one way or another and say, project makes sense, I can support it or not. All I have to do is, I'm sure others, is go to the comp plan. And whether as residents you like it or not, an overwhelming majority of people in this community in the comp plan have clearly spoken to the need for more housing options. And one of those are rental options. And we have lots of recent examples here over the last several years of where there have been other housing options developed in this community. TIF has been used in recent times very successfully in this community. All you gotta do is look to the medical clinic. I can appreciate people's concerns, appreciate people taking an interest and voicing those concerns. I just feel like we need to allow the process to move forward. We need to continue to evaluate information that we should be being provided by the developer and weigh exactly where we're gonna be at on this. I can't sit here tonight and say I support it or I don't one way or another.
Thank you, Councilmember Scott, for your comments. All right. So everybody's had a chance to speak and we've talked about it. So yeah, again, we have a decision to make of what direction we want to go, whether we go forward with it and at some point down the line, if we decide we don't want to keep going forward, we stop it, or we allow it to go all the way to the end and TIF happens, or we stop the process here before it really gets started down the road. So that's really where we're at. Those are the two paths, so to speak. If we move forward, we're saying we're gonna move forward, we're gonna allow the application process to move forward, we're gonna have staff time engaged in this. We're going to have a lot of time put into it with the idea that somewhere down the line, we could potentially say no and stop it. Because maybe we find out that but for and say, hey, no, we're not gonna do it. Or we make a decision tonight that say, we're just not comfortable with it moving forward at all at this point. So those are really the two options that the council has in front of them. So with that stated again, I'll ask again, what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
The motion is to not proceed with the tax assistance process at this time.
So I have a motion from Councilmember Ball not to move forward with TIF financing for the project as given to us. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilmember Jensen. Discussion.
My question would be, is it up to us to suggest whether or not the application actually comes in front of us? And where I'm going with that is, we've all shared our comments, we've all shared our concerns. We've shared that we're still seeking more information. How much are they asking? Is it up to us to encourage or discourage the application to come forward? The reason I ask is, if the application comes forward with a proper but-for clause, a value that is more palatable to us, that things do work in our favor, would we still not consider it? Again, we're making a decision based on no application in front of us, and I'm just asking that question after the points that Mr. Scott brought up. I know we all have our reservations and concerns, but we don't have an official application in front of us to discourage or encourage.
Yeah, if I may, I can speak to the process. So they submitted a pre-application for tax assistance. That was reviewed in June, at the first meeting in June. The next step in our formal procedure, that I think has been in place since like '02, is a formal application process. So that's what you're directing me on tonight. That would then require the developer to submit a deposit to cover our advisor fees as we go through that process. And then the council would then review the formal application at a future date, depending on when it was received. So we did receive a pre-application per our procedure. The next step is a final application.
And
So
if-
yes, you dictate that.
And if we vote not to proceed,
Mm-hmm.
they cannot do an application.
I mean, I suppose they could submit it to me, but I likely wouldn't put it in front of you to consider if you've already given me direction not to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome. Other discussion? I'll ask again, is there any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? The motion carries. Moving on, we're at item 6B, cannabis retail registration application. Administrator Popos.
Yes, thank you. On May 15th, 2026, staff received an application for a conditional use permit and cannabis retail license for a retail business located at 30375 Alpine Drive. The conditional use permit application went to the June Planning Commission meeting, at which a public hearing was held. The Planning Commission approved the CUP with findings and conditions as stated in your packet. The next step in this process is for council to consider the retail license application. Submitted with the application were all required materials per our ordinance. Additionally, the applicant has been found to be in compliance with all zoning regulations per our zoning code. Per state statute and city ordinance approved in December 2024, the city must allow at least one cannabis retail license if found in compliance with applicable law. The city cannot prohibit the establishment or operation of a cannabis business if it is otherwise allowed by state law, which it is. Staff recommends approving the cannabis retail registration application as presented.
Thank you, Administrator Popos. Any comments from the council?
Yeah, I have one. We have to allow one, but then why are we voting? I mean,
Because we still have to approve
You
it.
have to approve the retail
It's a
application.
formality.
It's a due diligence.
if we all said no,
It's a due diligence in the process. They get state approval, planning commission approval, city council approval.
I know it seems kind of silly, but the
The process is in the ordinance,
yeah,
so,
right.
yeah.
I mean, I'll just go on public record. I don't support having a dispensary. We don't have a choice. I don't think it's a good fit for our community. Since it is going to pass, it really doesn't matter how we vote.
I would advise you pass it. You do not have to, but there could be consequences to not.
At
I
the
think.
state level.
I believe so, yeah.
This is an example where the state has tied our hands.
Yeah, correct. Understood.
The higher level of government has told us this is the way it's gonna be and we don't have any choice.
But I would like us to prohibit hours between 8 and 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. and 2 a.m., which is in our ordinance, the council's discretion that we can do.
And we can do that at the time of final,
Well, I believe the planning commission had discussion about the hours and they were found in compliance.
okay,
So we can make that as a part of your approval that they must comply, but I
okay,
believe it's been stated that they do.
okay. All right. Any other comments from the council?
Was there any comments in opposition at the planning commission?
There were a few, yes.
Less than a handful?
Yeah, I would say less than a handful, yep. The planning commission discussed, that remind me, parking, security, a few land use, land use items, not operational items.
Most of the comments I received negatively are parents with school-age children in Eagle View.
And I understand the comments, I really do. Again, like I said, it's a situation where our hands are tied. And, you know, I guess from this perspective, the state requires us to have one, and so if this is the one that we're going to have, then that's gonna be it. You know, unless something changes in the future with what the council thinks and they decide or move forward with and planning and zoning, so on and so forth. So it's, yeah, I understand. So, any other comments from council? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
I have a motion from Councilmember Maroney. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second from Councilmember Ball. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Moving on, item 6C, Developers Agreement for Eagle View Sewer Extension. Looks like Joe and Ally.
I will take it.
Okay.
As a part of the Eagle View Storage subdivision, the city has the opportunity to participate in the project by funding the cost of upsizing the sewer main from the developer's proposed size to a 10-inch public sewer main. A draft developer's agreement is seen in your packet. The agreement requires the developer to construct the public sewer improvement to city standards, and the city is obligated to reimburse the developer for the additional costs associated with the upsizing. Participation in this agreement expands public infrastructure at a reduced public cost, provides capacity for future development, and avoids higher future construction costs. Legal counsel and staff, including Jerry and Joe, have reviewed the proposed agreement, and we recommend approving as presented.
Thank you, Administrator Pofos. Any comments from the council? I think it's a pretty straightforward thing
Yeah, it
for
makes
the
sense.
city, so I don't see why we, why we wouldn't say yes, but I just want to make sure there's any other comments or additional thoughts. All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Ball, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Jensen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion carries. Moving on, 7, departmental and council updates. 7A, candidate filing period. Administrator Pofus.
Yes, thank you. Election season is here, really. Candidate filing for our local offices or municipal offices opens on July 14th and closes on July 28th at 5 p.m. There is 1 2-year mayor seat open and 2 4-year council member seats open. Candidates can file at Breezy Point city offices during regular business hours.
All right, thank you. And I just want to go on public record as saying I will be filing for reelection, so just wanted to let everybody know I will be filing and running again. So anybody else in the community that's interested in running, we encourage you to do so. Come in, file. It's always good to have people involved and engaged in the process. So if you're interested, and we encourage you to come in and file for the seats that will be open. So thank you, Administrator Pofus, for that. And then basically we just have the May cash and investment informational item. And I do see that we also have a report from the Park Patrol regarding the disc golf course. And thank you, Chief, for putting this together and getting this into us. Appreciate that. And this was one of the things that we had requested, I believe, several council meetings earlier with regarding disc golf course. And just to read public record, it says that for June of '26, we had looks like two incidents on Agate Pass disc golf course. Looked like warned individuals for after hours ordinance violation. And we did have one on the city beach, warned for alcohol on the public beach. So, and it looks like none of the other ones had any, so that was 3 for the total, so, that's great. Again, thank the, department for doing that for us, we greatly appreciate it. All the efforts that they put forward is much needed and goes a long ways to keep our city safe, so thanks, Chief. Yep. All right. Okay, having no other business before us, I will call for a motion to,
You want to do any council updates?
oh, yeah,
council
sorry.
report?
See, that's not on here and I wasn't looking there, sorry. I'm looking at this. Yeah. So let's see. Yes. Anything from Personnel Committee?
We kind of approved it tonight.
Okay.
The new hires.
Yeah, which is exciting. We have a new planning and zoning administrator coming on board tomorrow. And it looks like we were able to find a replacement for our officer.
Yes.
So that's good to hear too, because I'm glad to see that we're not down one for a long period of time. That was a major concern of mine, so I'm happy to see we were able to get that position filled quickly through that way, and I'm looking forward to the planning and zoning administrator as well. So that's great stuff. Fire board, well, we have a meeting coming up, I think next week, a week from this coming Wednesday? Yeah.
A week from today.
A week from today. Oh, Monday. Okay, that's right. I'm off. Okay, so a week from today on Monday, the 13th, I believe that is, we will be having one. And I know that we're going to be covering a bunch of information there regarding our formula, rebranding, some other things. So there's been a lot of work going on with the fire district. and some of the new things that we've got going on there. So we'll have more information to report back to the council after we have the meeting. But I think suffice to say, what we're working on to make changes is going to make it more beneficial for the city of Breezy Point as being a part of this fire district moving forward. So I'm happy to see that we did some work. I will say that Pequot's been a willing partner at the table to sit and listen. We'll see what the fire district board has to say about all of it when it gets presented. And I know Administrator Polfus, I believe, will be presenting that to us when we have that meeting. So,
We did have
Yep.
one interview for an additional firefighter, so they were, that approval will come before the board as well, the district board for approval, but we have tentatively brought that person on, so.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for doing the work on that end too, as part of being a part of the board. Appreciate that. Councilmember Jensen, Streets Committee or Cemetery Commission, either one?
There was nothing for the Streets Committee. Cemetery Commission, I wasn't at the meeting, but it just focused around the butterfly release.
Yes, again, encourage everybody, if you haven't thought about attending, please plan to attend the butterfly release on July 18th. And we have all the information out either on our website or on our new Breezy Point app, which I encourage you, if you don't have it, download it on your phone and get it because you can get all the updates and the highlights of things that are going on. So I encourage all of you to look at that as well. And I know the Cemetery Commission is getting ready to put on an awesome event along with the staff. They've been working hard behind the scenes. I do encourage everybody to come out. It's a really great event, and I would love to see you there if you could make it. So thank you, Councilmember Jensen. Councilmember Roney, Personnel Committee, you talked about that. How about P&Z?
P&Z met, we had 2 conditional use permits. One of them we discussed tonight regarding the cannabis operation, making sure that that met land use requirements, and then another for a accessory structure, which was approved.
Great, thank you. It's always good to hear what they've got going on as well. Councilmember Scott, Finance Committee, Parks and Rec.
Finance Committee hasn't met, we got a meeting coming up,
We do.
and I haven't been to a Park and Rec meeting. I actually thought I was the backup to you.
Well, yeah, you're still on there. I'll be at the meeting this week, so if you
Okay.
can make it, I would encourage you to come, but yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, this week I won't be able to.
Yep, nope, that's okay. So we do have a Park and Rec committee meeting coming up on Thursday, I believe it is. So I'll be attending that. We've got some things going on there. We'll be looking at the next steps with regards to our plan. And then, yes, Finance Committee, we have another one of those coming up. That's next week as well. Yeah, so we got some meetings over the next couple of weeks going on. It's all good stuff. So with that, after those updates, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I have a motion from Councilmember Scott. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Councilmember Maroney. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Meeting is now adjourned at 7:23 PM. Thank you.